Good evening, everyone. I'm Dominic Vidiel, and thanks for joining us. Now, what was supposed to be an exciting competition on Lake Superior turned into a sudden cancellation due to the air quality. Today was supposed to be the 65th annual Duluth International Regatta with over 200 rowers competing from across the state and country, but a decision was made by referees and coaches to cancel the tournament right before it was supposed to start this morning. After a quick group picnic and attempts to make the most of the cancellation, the visitors left, leaving only the crew of the Duluth Rowing Club. While the cancellation was unexpected, it was a necessary decision for the rowers' safety.
It's very sad, and there was a lot of disappointed faces in the crowd, but I think everybody very much understood what was at stake and why.
It noted that even if they didn't cancel, there still would have been potential issues with the wind on Lake Superior.